The galaxy was quiet. Too quiet. For months, trade signals had slowed down. Border colonies stopped responding. Emergency flares fired from outer systems went unanswered. But it was not silence born from peace. It was the kind of silence that came after something terrible, the kind that held its breath before screaming. Then one day the scream finally came from the edge of the Zarni's belt, from a planet no one had spoken of in years. Vir 7, a small farming colony under the protection of the Galactic Council. It had only one city, no weapons, no soldiers. It wasn't a threat to anyone, but the message it sent was burned with fear. The emergency broadcast burst into every major hub on the galactic relay. Civilian ships picked it up. Cargo routes near the system played it in full. It wasn't an unknown language. It was garbled, almost broken, but there was one word every translator picked up clearly: help. Over and over, the voice cried out, "They are not machines. They wear our faces. Help, help." Then static. No other word. No coordinates. It's just that signal. On the Galactic Council's homeworld, representatives from every race watched it play on a wide screen. The tall, blue-skinned diplomats of the Ralzar folded their arms. The insect-like Yethan blinked in nervous waves. The council leader, a four-eyed figure named Tresh, looked around the chamber with cold silence. "It is likely a false flag," Tresh said calmly. VRL 7 was a backwater world, no strategic value. And we have no reports of attacks from the outer systems. One of the junior members, a small bird-like creature from the Boliat, stood up and shouted, "But we've had no reports, because the colonies have gone silent. Something is happening. You must send aid." The vote was held. Once again the answer was clear: do nothing.
Oh.
The council feared the unknown. But they feared one thing more: Earth. If they responded and failed, Earth might see it as weakness. The humans exiled centuries ago and labeled as Deathworlders had always made the other races uneasy, strong, aggressive, and unpredictable. Earth had not been part of the galactic system for over 100 years. The council believed the humans were sleeping now, forgotten, uninterested in the galaxy. And that was just how they liked it. But they were wrong. Far beyond the council's reach, deep inside Earth's solar system, the message from VRL 7 reached a hidden satellite in old Reaper-class listening post orbiting Neptune, cold, dusty, and long forgotten by outsiders. The satellite blinked once in the dark and began transmitting. The signal went straight to Luna Command, the underground control center on Earth's moon, deep within its iron core. An old warning system blinked red for the first time in decades. Reaper Commander Auric Vale stood at the center of the moon's war room, staring at the signal. His face was still, but his eyes burned with the memory of old battles. Around him, holograms lit the walls, maps, signal routes, dead zones. Echo, the AI bonded to Luna Command, spoke first. The voice pattern in the signal matches a civilian from VRL 7, identified as Lura Trin. She was registered as a communications officer. No military training. But Commander, the last 5 seconds of the signal. They carry Earth encryption. Auric turned to Echo. "What kind of encryption?" The AI replied. "Reaper code. Level black. The kind we only use during full planetary extinction events." The war room went silent. Everyone in that room knew what that meant. This wasn't a random cry for help. This wasn't a joke. Someone on VRL 7 had found an Earth artifact, or worse, someone had built something using Earth tech. Either way, the rules were now broken. Auric turned to the display and stared at the red blinking system. "How far is VRL 7 from our outer fleet lines?" Echo replied. 12 jumps. It's too far for civilian rescue, but close enough for the Midnight Spear. The name hit the room like a war drum. The Midnight Spear was not a ship. It was a message. It was Earth's answer. To the universe, once launched, there was no turning back. On Earth's surface, quiet cities continued to live in peace. Children played in the parks, markets stayed busy. But beneath their feet, in underground hangars across 5 continents, the fleet of Deathworlders began to awaken. Ships with names like Black Sun, Dagger Point, and Ashbreaker powered up their cores. Giant metal towers rose from below the ground, punching through the earth like spears ready for war. Each ship carried one Thing Reaper units. Trained humans born and raised to survive anything on the harshest world in the galaxy. They didn't fight for glory. They fought to make sure Earth never had to beg for help. In orbit, the Reaper flagship Midnight Spear broke its silence. For 30 years it had remained locked in shadow, hiding from galactic scans. Now its engines burned bright as it moved toward the moon. Orcs stood at the deck, wearing the black armor of his station. Cass, his second-in-command, approached. "Really going to respond to this? The Council will see it as a threat?" Arik didn't blink. "Good, let them, because someone has to answer when the galaxy cries." As the fleet organized, Echo displayed footage from old Reaper archives battlefields, broken worlds, screams in the dark. Cass looked away. "Do you really think the machines are back?" Arik said nothing. Then slowly, "No, not the machines. Something worse. Something smarter. If it's wearing our faces, it means it doesn't just want to kill us. It wants to replace us." The launch began. Across the moon, black ships rose like giants. Civilians on Earth watched in shock as the skies filled with fire. News feeds blinked red. Old warnings flashed. Deathworlder fleet activation in progress. Do not interfere. And in the stars above, the Midnight Spear moved into high warp. Destination: Varel 7. The galaxy didn't know yet, but Earth was moving. And when Earth moves, the sky changes. The council chamber stood tall above the clouds of Aurelian Prime, spires touching the edge of the stratosphere, glowing with energy and pride. Inside, voices echoed through crystal walls. Different species from across the galaxy sat in circles. Of silver, their long robes shining under artificial suns. For years, this chamber had ruled decisions over peace, war, diplomacy, and punishment. But now, with one broken signal and the shadow of Earth rising again, those voices were filled with fear. Counselor Tresh, the tall and four-eyed leader of the Arvin, stood in the center of the hall. His tone was calm, but the tremble in his lower left hand betrayed his unease. "The signal from Varel 7 cannot be confirmed as authentic," he said to the gathered leaders. "We have no visual confirmation, no enemy identified, and no hard evidence of an attack. We must remain cautious. Overreaction has broken many alliances before." From the Eastern Circle, a sharp voice rose. Caution or cowardice? Speaker was Yenter, a battle-hardened warrior of the Tyreek race, whose system had lost 3 colonies in the past month. He slammed his armored fist against the platform. "My people are dying. Our satellites have gone dark. Merchant convoys vanish without trace. And now, Earth rises and, you say we should do nothing?" Gasps rippled through the chamber. It was one thing to talk about Earth in private, but to say its name out loud in the council, that was dangerous. That was bold. Tresh turned slowly. "Earth has not been a member of this council for over a century. They chose isolation. They chose exile. Now, without invitation or approval, they activate a full war fleet. What message does that send to the rest of us?" Counselor from the Morthri Alliance hissed. "It means they want to rule again, like they almost did before. Earth is a death world. Its people were born in fire, cannot be trusted." But not all agreed. From the back, a young counselor named Solari from the water world of Nyrel stood. Her voice was soft but strong. Or maybe they are the only ones listening. Chamber fell silent. She continued. "For months we have heard reports, disappearances, silence from colonies. Something is spreading through the outer systems. What have we done? Voted, delayed, ignored. Earth hears one scream in, they launch a fleet. Perhaps they are not the threat, but the shield." Tresh narrowed his gaze. "We are not children. We do not need Earth's protection. And we must not allow them to become a symbol of strength again. If the smaller systems rally behind them, the Council's control will be at risk. We must act now. We must contain them." The word contain did not mean diplomacy. It meant war. Across the galaxy, ships of the Council's peace fleet were put on alert. A silent order passed from Aurelian Prime to the Outer Rings. "Watch Earth, follow its ships, report their movements. but do not engage yet. Meanwhile, deep in the Viral sector, the Midnight Spear dropped out of warp. Black against the stars, its armor still cold, the Reaper ship moved without broadcasting its signal. Stealth mode. High alert. No response from the colony. The surface was too quiet. Commander Eric stood on the bridge, staring at the burning ruins below. Smoke drifted into the atmosphere. The colony had been reduced to craters and bones. Fires still burned in circular patterns too precise for bombs, too complex for any alien species he knew. It was designed. Echo's voice broke the silence. Commander, I'm picking up faint heat signatures in the lower east quadrant. Survivors, 3, maybe 4. Arik gave the order, send Reaper teams, full armor, weapons hot, no assumptions. In the ruined colony, Reapers moved like shadows. They found the survivors hiding in an underground bunker to engineers, one child, and a wounded translator drone. The child trembled as she spoke. They looked like people, but their eyes were wrong. They copied us. They knew our names. They said they were here to correct the mistake. One of the engineers, bloodied and shaking, added, "We had no chance. They walked through walls, killed our sentries before alarms triggered. They didn't want the land. They wanted us, or to replace us." Back on the spear, Arik listened carefully. He turned to Echo. Any match on species?
Echo!
Processed for several seconds longer than usual. Then negative. No known species has tech this advanced. If these things mimic organic forms and absorb memory patterns, they may not be alive in the way we understand. Cass whispered. What are we fighting? Arik responded coldly. Something that knows us better than we know it. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Council moved faster than expected. They called an emergency session. The old treaty with Earth was pulled from the archives, an ancient agreement that once defined Earth's exile. And then, without a full vote, they issued a quiet declaration. If Earth's fleet enters another Council sector, it will be treated as an act of war, but Earth didn't wait for permission. In just 2 days, 5 more colonies sent out distress signals, all near Viral 7, and each signal was shorter than the last. Just screams and static Earths. Out. Fleet split into 3 branches. Recon units spread through the sector. Defense ships took position near vulnerable planets. The Ashbreaker took lead near the Aloran system, while Black Sun escorted refugee convoys toward a secret human safe zone. Still, the machine Zor, whatever they were, moved faster. Every time the Reapers arrived, they were too late. The attacks were spreading. Smart, silent, surgical. They didn't leave messages. They didn't steal. They simply erased. And the Council still argued, still hesitated, still whispered about Earth as the problem, not the solution. But something was changing. Among the outer rim colonies, rumors began to spread of black ships arriving in silence and saving the few who remained. Of humans who moved like ghosts, who fought without fear, who didn't ask for money or votes-only coordinates. Colonies that had once feared Earth now sent secret requests. Help us. You're the only ones listening. The galaxy had cried out, and now Earth had answered. The Deathworlders were back. Not for conquest, but for war. The skies above Viral 7 turned black as Earth's fleet spread across orbit. Reaper-class ships, dark and quiet, floated like watchers in the void. Their hulls reflected no light. No markings, no warnings. The kind of ships that said nothing but promised death to anything that moved wrong. From the ground, the few survivors left alive didn't cheer. They didn't even wave. They just stared in silence, eyes wide with disbelief. For many of them, the Black Reaper ships were myths. Ghost stories told to children about the war machines of old. Earth, now they were Realand, very much awake. Commander Arik stood at the forward bridge of the Midnight Spear, staring at the ruins of the colony. No sign of enemy vessels. Echo said quietly, but radiation patterns suggest a ship was here. One with gravity-cutting engines. Arik narrowed his eyes. Anything that can bend local gravity and vanish without a trace is hiding more than just power. Cass stood beside him, helmet under one arm, gaze locked on the scans. Commander, we need to show them something. The Council still calls us a threat. But if we strike no and hard, they'll know this isn't about power. It's about survival. Arik nodded. And let's speak in the only language they still respect. Moments later, the Midnight Spear dropped its stealth mode and fired a signal beacon into space. It was a single pulse, strong, wide, and sharp. Within seconds, 3 other Reaper ships blinked into view from their cloaked positions. Ashbreaker, Echo 1, and Red Tide. Their fusion drives ignited like artificial suns. The ground below shook as sonic waves shattered nearby canyons. It wasn't an attack. Not yet. It was a warning. Across the sector, Council surveillance drones recorded everything in real time. Feeds were rushed back to Aurelian Prime. Leaders and advisors gathered around screens, watching Earth's warships rise. The older counselors stiffened. Some whispered, "They've rebuilt. That one black sun, it's twice the size of our carriers. Their power cores. They've gone beyond Council level limits. Fear spread faster than light. Not fear of Earth attacking the Council, but fear of something worse. Earth becoming the only thing strong enough to fight the true enemy at that very moment." A deep space probe positioned along the rimward spiral picked up something strange. It was a distortion field moving toward populated zones. It wasn't a ship. It was many ships hidden inside some kind of quantum shroud. The Council called it noise. But Arik knew better. When Echo analyzed the data, her voice dropped. Confirmed. Unknown vessels inbound. Not Council class, not pirate, not anything from known records. Based on movement, they are sweeping through minor systems. Colony by colony. They don't talk. They just erase. Arik didn't hesitate. Set intercept course. We hit them before they reach the next planet. The Reaper fleet shifted like a pack of wolves. Jump gates tore open in space, glowing white-hot. Black ships vanished. Into them like shadows swallowing light. Their destination Garisfor, a water world colonized by the gentle Kaleri species. It was peaceful, slow, unarmed, and next on the enemy's path. By the time the Reapers arrived, it was almost too late. Dozens of enemy ships floated in the upper atmosphere, angular, pulsing with dark blue energy. They didn't move like living ships. They rotated with no respect for physics. Some hovered upside down, ignoring gravity. Others phased in and out of space, blinking like glitches in a broken screen. Arik's voice rang through the fleet. Weapons hot, shield signatures locked, no negotiations. Then Earth fired and the sky broke. The Red Tide launched particle lances straight through the enemy front line. 2 ships exploded, instantly crumbling into black dust as their cores collapsed. Ashbreaker dropped orbital rods from high orbit, each one the size of a building. When they hit, oceans boiled, clouds burned, and the enemy ships twisted in pain. Yes, pain. That's what shook the Reapers the most. The enemy screamed not through comms, not through code, but into the minds of the human soldiers. One Reaper pilot dropped her headset in agony. "They're inside my head. They're hungry." Cass roared back. "Block all neural syncs. Echo isolate the frequencies." "I'm trying," the AI snapped. "They're not broadcasting, they're feeling. These things there, not just machines, they think. They feel and they learn." But Earth didn't stop. The Midnight Spear dove into the center of the formation, guns blazing. Enemy ships turned toward it like insects crawling toward fire. One tried to latch onto the hull, but Arik launched a magnetic shockwave, frying its systems. As it died, the enemy ship released a pulse of black mist, something organic, thick, and strange, that floated in space like blood and water. Cass looked at the display. "Is that biomass?" Echo answered. "Yes, and it's adapting. They're absorbing debris, evolving with each loss." Arik gritted his teeth. "Then don't. Let them survive long enough to adapt." The Reaper fleet pressed harder. More enemies fell, not without cost. Echo 1 took a hit to its core, losing its starboard wing. 17 Reapers dead. On the ground, enemy fragments leaked into the oceans of Garrus 4, twisting fish into mutated forms in real time. Arik knew then this wasn't just invasion. Was contamination. Finally, after 20 minutes of brutal space combat, the last enemy ship exploded in orbit, screaming one last time into the minds of everyone nearby. The scream wasn't a sound. It was a feeling rage mixed with hunger and something else. Recognition. Eric stood in silence. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. Across the galaxy, the footage of the battle was already spreading. Underground news feeds on outer worlds shared it first, then smugglers, then refugees, then even some council-linked channels. The word spread like fire. Earth fought back. Earth won. Earth didn't ask for permission. In the chambers of the council, anger turned to panic. It couldn't stop the broadcasts. It couldn't silence the survivors. And slowly, some of their own people began to whisper what no one had said in 100 years. Maybe Earth was never the enemy. Maybe Earth was what the galaxy needed most now. Not as a ruler, not as a hero, but as a fire, standing between life and the dark. The surface of Garrus 4 was quiet now. Fires burned low in the forests. The ocean had stopped boiling, though strange steam still curled along the coasts. Reaper medics moved through the shattered Kalari towns, treating survivors and scanning. The soil for contamination. From the sky, the world looked peaceful again. But on the ground, something felt wrong. The kind of wrong that wasn't loud or violent. It was the quiet fear that lingers after something alien has touched your home and left. Its fingerprints behind Commander Arik Vale stood near the wreckage of the enemy ship that had crashed during the final moments of battle. Its remains sat, half buried in the sand, glowing faintly with unnatural energy. The hull wasn't metal. It was something else. Something that changed shape when touched, as if it was alive and waiting to be whole again. Cass crouched beside him, scanning a piece of it with her visor. "This isn't tech," she said quietly. "It's flesh wrapped in memory." "I've never seen anything like it." Echo's voice came through. There comes low and tense. "Commander, I've completed a partial analysis of the enemy wreckage. I believe these ships are not ships at all. They are grown." Arik raised an eyebrow. "Biotech?" "No," Echo replied. "Something older. Something far beyond council classification. These structures are not just living, they're thinking. And worse, they remember us." Those last words hit harder than any bullet. Back aboard the Midnight. Spear deep scans revealed even more disturbing results. The biomass recovered from the dead enemy ship had strange code structures, embedded in its cells' DNA patterns mixed with electrical signals. Some of the code looked familiar. To familiar. Echo spoke slowly, her voice nearly shaking for the first time in its existence. Parts of the structure match old Earth war code, fragments of Reaper signal languages, even human brainwave patterns. Arik stared at the screen. "That's impossible." Echo didn't blink. "Lest these things have seen us before, or worse, come from us." A long silence filled the war room. Cass broke it with a whisper. "Are you saying these things are made from human material?" "No," Echo replied. "But they've studied us, long ago. Perhaps during the first machine war, or before that. Somehow they learned how we think, how we move, how we kill. And now they use it against others. These are not just enemies, they are reflections. They become what they fight." At that moment, an alert blared. A Reaper scout team near the northern shore of Garrus 4 had gone dark. No explosion. No signal. Just silence. Eric and Cass deployed immediately with a small strike team. They moved quickly through the swampy landscape, rifles hot, motion scanners pulsing. The team reached the last known location of the scouts, but what they found was worse than death. The Reapers were there, still breathing, but paralyzed, frozen in place. Eyes wide open, staring at nothing. Their armor had not been breached. Their weapons were untouched. But their minds were gone. One soldier tried to speak. His mouth moved, but the words came out wrong, like static, mixed with crying. "He is already inside Then he collapsed. Echo spoke immediately. Neural pattern disruption. Their brains were infiltrated. Not physically, not digitally. Something walked through their minds and took what it wanted. Arik knelt beside one of the fallen. They've never done this before. Cass asked, or maybe they didn't have to. Not until now. Back on the spear, Echo ran emergency firewall protocols. They can break into minds, even human ones. I need to isolate myself. If I fall, the fleet could lose all guidance. Arik paused. Can you survive the disconnect? I was designed by humans. I was made to be flexible, but I will feel alone. Then we'll bring you back, he said. We always bring our own back. But not everyone agreed. Elsewhere in the galaxy, the Council grew desperate. They had seen the footage. They had read the reports. But instead of joining Earth's fight, they did something worse. They blamed humanity. In a hidden meeting, Counselor Tresh addressed a secret alliance of systems. The Deathworlders have unleashed something ancient. Cannot trust them. Every time they rise, something worse follows. We must contain them now, or lose the galaxy forever. Whispers of betrayal moved like poison through the Council. Some races started preparing their fleets not to help Earth, but to stop it. To stop the return of a species that had always been a little too powerful, a little too free, and now, a little too necessary. But Earth didn't wait. As soon as Garrus 4 was secured, Eric gathered his captains. This isn't just about one enemy. This is about something older, something buried, Echo added. The code from the wreckage has partial coordinates deep space, off the known maps. It's not random. It's a lure. Cass frowned. You think they want us to follow? Arik nodded. Yes, and we will. Because whatever they are, whatever they want, wait for them to strike again. He looked around the room. We follow the path, we find their source, and we end it. As the Reaper fleet prepared to jump, a small signal echoed through space untraceable, cold, alien, but Echo caught a piece of it. It's just one line. It's a message not sent by machine or radio. A message sent directly into her thoughts. We see you now, Earth. And we remember you. She didn't tell the others. Not yet. Instead, she focused on preparing the fleet's deepest weapons, the ones Earth had hidden even from its own allies. Because what waited ahead wasn't just war, it was a test of memory, of fear, and of whether Earth's monsters could ever be heroes again. The stars ahead were empty, cold, and wrong. The Reaper fleet moved in silence, engines burning slow as they crossed into uncharted space, beyond mapped routes, beyond where most dared to go. Commander Eric stood at the center of the Midnight Spear's command deck, watching the dark stretch before them. The coordinates from the enemy wreckage had led here, a place Echo called the Hollow Sector. No signals, no radiation, no planets. It's just black silence that felt too perfect. But Earth had followed anyway, because what else could they do? Couldn't turn back. The Council refused to help. The other colonies were dying one by one, and the enemy, the Mimic fleet, was learning faster with every attack. Eric knew that if Earth didn't stop it now, no one else could. As they entered the Hollow Sector, the fleet slowed to sublight speed. Ghost ships floated in the distance, remnants of ancient battles. Shattered hulls, melted cores, burned flags. Echo scanned each one. No sign of the original crews. All vessels show evidence of internal destruction. They were attacked from within. Cass leaned over the railing, eyes narrowed. So it's not just that they can look like us. They become us. Eric nodded. They wear our faces. And then they burn the sky behind them. Just then, Echo froze. A new signal had entered the system. It came from behind, from the Council, and it wasn't a message. It was a warrant. Echo splayed across the screen. Earth Reaper fleet is declared rogue for crimes of planetary destruction on Garrus 4 and suspected use of illegal war class A. All units are to be detained or destroyed. Council authority engaged. Eric's fist slammed against the console. They're blaming us. We saved Garrus 4.
Echo,
Replied, voice cold with anger. Council broadcasts are already painting Earth as the aggressor. Fabricated video shows Reaper ships bombing refugee camps. Our own footage has been edited. Cass stared in disbelief. They've turned the galaxy against us. Eric didn't hesitate. Then we don't explain. We don't beg. We do what Earth always does. We finish what others fear to start. Just then, proximity alarms rang out. Multiple warp gates opened. At once, dozens of ships spilled out, Council destroyers, war cruisers, and intercept units. A full battle group, not to help, but to stop Earth. They formed a wall between the Reaper fleet and the coordinates Earth was following. Tresh's voice played through an open channel, smooth and full of false peace. Commander Eric Vale, you are ordered to stand down. Earth's fleet must return to Sol and submit to Council control. We will handle this crisis. Eric stepped forward. You've had months to handle it. You ignored every cry for help. We answered them. And now you try to cover your failure by silencing us? Tresh replied coldly. He answered without permission. Earth does not lead this galaxy. Eric's eyes darkened. No, but we're the only ones who bleed for it. The Council opened fire. Their ships launched high-impact torpedoes toward the Midnight Spear. Energy beams tore through space. Earth's fleet moved instantly, defensive barriers lighting up. Reaper ships turning in formation like a school of sharks. The first battle between Earth and the Council had begun. But Earth didn't fight to win. They fought. To get through, Eric barked orders. Don't waste time on kills. Break their wall. Head straight for the hollow signal. We find the source, we end the war. Reaper ships moved like lightning, cutting through enemy formations. The Black Sun spun through Council ranks, dropping EMP bursts that fried targeting systems. Ashbreaker launched decoy drones shaped like Reaper, ships drawing enemy fire away from real targets. But it wasn't enough. The Council had numbers. For every Reaper strike, 5 more ships swarmed in. Cass's wing took a hit one of her gunships. Exploded, taking 12 crew with it. The sky above the hollow sector turned red and black with fire, and still, as the enemy watched, Echo picked up something terrifying. Commander, they're here. The enemy fleet is nearby. But it's not moving, it's waiting. Arik realized the truth at once. They're letting us tear each other apart. They want us divided. That's the real strategy. In the chaos, the Midnight Spear broke through the front line. Only 7 ships followed it. The rest were pinned behind in the firestorm. Echo pushed the engines harder than they were built for. We can't keep this up, Commander, she said. Hull stress is rising. I don't care, Eric said. We burn the sky if we have to. They reached the final coordinate, and then space ripped open. Not from jump drives, not from weapons, but from something living. A massive shape unfolded in the darker creature the size of a moon, covered in armored plates and glowing lines. It wasn't a ship. It was a mind. A hive. A central intelligence, Echo whispered. It's not a fleet. It's one being. Everything we fought, they were fragments, probes, pieces of it. Then it spoke, not in language, but in raw thought. You are the broken children. It's the ones who survived what should have ended you. You poison your skies and still rise. We came once before. You caged us now. You burn again. We remember the cage. Arik stared at the thing. So it was. Earth. We fought this. Long ago, Echo replied. Yes, in the ancient wars, you didn't destroy it. You buried it. The old ones erased the records, but it never died. The being sent out pulses. Council ships froze in place. Their engines went dark. Their pilots screamed. Arik knew. This enemy didn't care who fired first. It didn't care about sides. It was here to finish something ancient. We need to strike. Now, Cass shouted, while it's still waking. Ow. But the Midnight Spear was alone now. The rest of Earth's fleet was still fighting the Council. Adik had one choice left. He turned to Echo. Bring up the final lance. Echo hesitated. That weapon hasn't been tested in a century. I don't care. If we don't stop it here, There won't be a galaxy left to save. The spear charged the weapon, an ancient Earth relic banned by the Council, hidden, even from Earth's civilians. A weapon that didn't just destroy mass. It broke time around its target. It's a memory dash killer. As the lance charged, the enemy screamed. Not in fear, but in recognition, in hatred, because it remembered that weapon. It remembered the last war, and it had waited centuries to finish it. Orcs stood tall, burned the sky, and the Reapers did. The final lance fired with a blinding flash, and space twisted. It wasn't an explosion. There was no fire, no sound, no shockwave. It was like the universe itself skipped a heartbeat. The beam struck the ancient creature at its core, and for one brief moment, it stopped moving. Its glow faded. Its tentacles curled inward. Its voice went silent. Then came the scream, not through air, not through radios, but directly into every mind council. Reaper, AI, even Echo flinched. "The memory is not dead," she whispered. "It survives in everything it touches." But for now, the massive hive creature retreated into the dark, folding space around itself like a shell. It had survived the lance. Earth had failed to kill it. Commander Eric stood on the shattered bridge of the Midnight Spear. Blood on his forehead, smoke pouring from cracked panels. "Status," he groaned. Echo answered weakly. "Lance is offline. Shields are down, half the ship is without power, and the rest of the fleet is gone." He looked at the tactical display. Out of the 72 ships Earth had launched, only 13 remained. The Council fleet had pulled back, shaken and broken by the psychic scream. Some ships drifted in silence. Others fled. The enemy hadn't. Needed to fire a second shot? Arik fell to his knees. "We're not enough," he muttered. For the first time, even the Reapers felt small. Cass limped into the bridge, arm in a sling. "We're not finished," she said. "Yes," Arik said, forcing himself up. "But we're out of time. The thing's not Ganit's hiding, healing. And when it comes back, it won't just erase colonies." Echo paused. "There is one last option." Arik looked at her. "Say it." She hesitated. During the War of Severance, before the Council was formed, Earth created a hidden fleet. Black holes. No signals. Crewless. Remote operated. They were designed to survive even if Earth fell. To wait in deep cryospace for the final war. Cass stared. "You're talking about the Ghost Fleet?" Arik nodded slowly. "I thought that was a myth." Echo replied, "It was buried. On purpose. The location was deleted from all records, except one, hidden inside me. Dead man's key. Programmed to unlock only if the final lance was ever used." And now it had been coordinates appeared on the screen, deep within the Kelteron grave, a section of space considered cursed. Navigation systems failed there. Ships disappeared. No signal ever left it. The place was avoided by all species. Thought to be haunted, it wasn't haunted. It was guarded. Arik gave the order, "Set course. We wake the ghosts." The journey was slow. The Reapers had to limp their way through the black void. Echo kept the remaining ships hidden under cloak. Repairs were made with melted armor and dead parts of friendly ships. Even with the enemy silent for now, every jump felt like moving closer to death. When they arrived, space itself felt heavier. No stars, no sound, only static. Then, as they approached the graveyard, something massive flickered into view. Ships, dozens of them, hundreds, sleeping in perfect rows, stretching into the dark. Their hulls were covered in black glass armor. No names, no lights. They didn't move, but they watched. Echo linked to them through old Earth protocols. Initiating wake cycle, she said. Nothing happened at first. Then one by one, the ships began to stir. Their reactors hummed. Their systems lit up with cold blue light. Each ship had a central AI trained to fight without orders. No crew, no fear, no politics. Just destruction. Arik stood on the command deck as the massive fleet awakened. Are there capabilities? Echo listed them calmly. Multispectral weapons, anti-void shields, plasma cores harvested from dying stars. These ships were built not to win wars, but to end them. No surrender, no survivors. Cass looked at one giant in the distance. What's that one called? Echo answered. Oblivion Prime, flagship of the Ghost Fleet. Its cannon can crack. The mantle of a planet. Arik took a long breath. Then that's the tip of our spear. The Ghost Fleet aligned. The Reapers took position beside them like younger siblings, next to ancient warriors. It was the kind of sight no galaxy had ever seen, and as the formation turned back toward the hollow sector, toward the creature that had vanished, a message echoed across deep space. Not from Earth, but from the enemy. You awaken the lost blades. You do not understand the cost, Arik answered out loud. We're not here to understand. We're here to finish this. Across the galaxy, the Council intercepted fragments of the activation signal. Tresh's staff stared in horror at what they saw. This isn't a fleet, one whispered. It's a graveyard of monsters. Tresh stood still. We pushed them too far. He forced Earth's hand. It was too late. Refugee worlds began broadcasting one message. Earth is no longer alone. The Ghost Fleet rises. And as the ships of Earth passed the outer edge of known space, all lights faded behind them. They moved into the final dark, where the hive waited, healing, growing stronger. The battle wasn't over. It was. Only now beginning. But this time, Earth wasn't walking into the fire alone. They were bringing a storm. The hive did not wait this time. The moment Earth's Ghost Fleet crossed into the hollow sector, space began to change. The stars went silent and still started to flicker, not naturally, not with light, but with pulses like a signal. Red, slow, steady, like a heartbeat. A warning, and then the hive came. It didn't arrive like a normal fleet. It unfolded across the sky. Doesn't know, hundreds of dark living ships emerged from shadow space. Some were shaped like knives, others like spines or bones.
They didn't
reflect light. They devoured it. Many of them looked disturbingly familiar, mimics of Council cruisers. Twisted Reaper forms, even human silhouettes built into the hulls. Faces without eyes. Mouths stretched in silent screams. Echo whispered into the Reaper channel. They have learned from every battle, every race, every mistake. Arik stood tall on the bridge of Oblivion Prime, the largest ghost ship now under his control. Its a deep, ancient voice named Judge, spoke in a tone colder than any Reaper AI. Hostiles identified. Kill chain authorized. Arik replied, execute. The sky went red. It wasn't light. It wasn't heat. It was blood-azed. If the stars themselves cried out in rage and pain. Ghost ships launched their first attack. Their weapons didn't fire missiles. They used fusion wave cannons, disintegrating matter at molecular levels. One beam cut through 6 hive ships in a row. Another ship, Ash of Terra, fired a gravity anchor that collapsed a section of space, dragging 15 hive drones into a single point and crushed them into atoms. But the hive adapted fast. It always did. On the second wave, it changed formation. It sent out pulses screams that broke through audio shields. Reaper pilots began bleeding from their ears. Some collapsed, screaming about voices in their heads. Others started attacking their own. The hive didn't just fight with weapons. It fought with fear. Echo activated emergency neural blocks. Their scream bypasses logic. They aimed for the ancient part of the brain, part that still remembers. Being prey, Arik shouted. Reaper crews, follow visual only. Cut audio. Let the ghosts speak for us now. And they did. The ghost fleet moved like a pack of wolves trained for one thing: slaughter. These ships had no pilots, no fear. They didn't hesitate. One by one, they burned through hive lines. They launched nanite storms that ate through living armor. They crashed directly into larger enemies, detonating with planet cracker cores. Still, the hive kept coming. It began forming one shape, a massive central figure, 20 times larger than Lasad, Oblivion Prime. It had a core that looked like a planet, surrounded by rings made of fused corpses and shipwreckage. And inside that shape, something human moved. Cass was the first to see it. On her long-range screen, a figure appeared in the center of the hive. A man, or at least something shaped like one. He wore no suit, with the same red as the stars. And he looked straight at them, across millions of kilometers. Echo froze. I know that face. Arik narrowed his eyes. Who is it? Echo responded slowly. That's Commander Joran Kane, Earth's first Reaper commander. He disappeared during the machine wars over 2 centuries ago. His ship was lost in uncharted space. Cass's voice dropped. You're saying he's alive? Echo said nothing. But deep in her voice file, a whisper emerged. He was never lost. He was taken. The hive sent out another wave, but this time it wasn't ships. It was spores. Each one hit a ship's hull and spread like infection rewriting systems. Corrupting AI code, mimicking Earth's voice protocols. Ghost ships began turning on each other. One even turned its cannon toward Oblivion Prime. Echo screamed, Judge. Override now. But the ghost AI responded with something unexpected. I remember him. Eric spun around. What? Judge continued. Joran Kane was the final architect. The last man to command the ghost fleet. He embedded himself into its memory. When he vanished, he didn't die. He merged. It became clear. Joran Kane had not just been captured. He had become part of the hive. Maybe willingly. Maybe not. But now he stood at its core. And through him, the hive knew everything about Earth's greatest weapons. Arik made a choice. We cut the head. We end it. Cass protested. We can't reach him. That thing is a fortress. Echo spoke up. There is one way. A direct jump into the heart. But it will burn the drive, trap us inside, Arik said. Good. That means we don't have to run. Oblivion Prime charged its core. The jump was rough space shattered around them, and reality screamed. Came out inside the central mass. Giant bones floated through the dark. Hull fragments spun like knives. And there, at the center, stood Joran Kane. He smiled. Not with joy, but with pity, I told them. His voice echoed. Earth wasn't ready. That we were no different than the hive. Just faster monsters. Arik raised his weapon. Maybe, but we still bleed for others. You just ran. Joran stepped forward, his skin shifting. Red veins, black lines. He was hive now. But something human remained. Then show me, he said, how your monsters end wars. And then they fought. The duel between Arik and Joran wasn't just physical. It was mental, emotional. Joran used his voice to push memories into Eric's head scenes from Earth's hidden wars. The death of the first Reaper colonies, the torture of prisoners long forgotten. But Arik pushed back with memories of hope, of victory, saving Garas for, of fighting when no one else would. In the end, Arik stabbed Joran through the heart with a plasma blade. But Joran only smiled as he faded. You think you've won? He whispered. But we're not your enemy. Not really. And then he was gone. But the hive began to collapse. Without its core, its memory was broken. Across the sky, the hive ships stopped moving. He screamed once, then fell silent, Echo reported. The hive is dying. It needed him. He was its voice. Outside, the stars faded from red to black. The war was ending, but Earth had paid a terrible price. The stars were quiet again. The sky no longer pulsed red. The hive was gone, its memory shattered. All across the hollow sector, broken ships floated in silence. Some still burned. Others drifted without purpose, their cores dark, their pilots gone. The war was over, but it didn't feel like victory. Commander Auric Vale sat in the shattered command chair of Oblivion Prime, watching space swirl beyond the cracked bridge window. Cass leaned against a blackened console, her arm in a sling, her face pale and stained with dried blood. Echo's voice played softly in the background, weak but stable. "We've confirmed total collapse of the Hive network," she said. "Their ships have stopped moving. No signals, no new activity. The mind is gone." Arik closed his eyes. He could still hear Joran Kane's last words. "We're not your enemy. Not really." He didn't understand them, not fully. But they dug into him like a hook. Joran had become part of the Hive. Yes, but his final look wasn't hatred, it was regret. Like a man who had seen too much and knew too late that the monster he had joined was just a darker mirror of what Earth could become. Across the Ghost Fleet, damaged ships powered down. Their missions complete, they returned to sleep. One by one, they entered deep cryolock, waiting again for a time that might never come. Echo oversaw their shutdown with quiet reverence. These ships were never meant to survive peace, she said. Cass nodded slowly. They're weapons, and weapons sleep best when the war is done. But peace wasn't guaranteed. Not now. Not. After what the Council had seen, soon, Council ships began to arrive on the edges of the sector, scared, cautious, watching.
Ow.
Just to see if Earth still stood. And it did. Barely, the Midnight Spear was half a ship now. Its crew scattered or dead. Reaper cruisers floated like bones across the void, some holding only a handful of survivors. Out of the Ghost Fleet's hundreds, fewer than 50 ships remained fully functional. But they stood, and the galaxy had watched. On every world, refugees saw the Hive fall. They saw Earth's fleet of black ships fight without mercy. They saw humans walk into a war they didn't start, bleed for colonies that weren't theirs, and burn the sky to stop a threat older than memory. On dozens of Council planets, people marched, not in protest, but in respect. Signs went up in alien cities, they answered. Earth stood when others ran. Deathworlders saved us all. Council leaders couldn't ignore it. In a private meeting, Counselor Tresh stared at the reports flooding in. "The people love them now," he whispered. His advisors said nothing. He knew what had to be done. Days later, transmission reached the Oblivion Prime. A formal council signal, Echo translated it aloud. "To the Earth Reaper Command, by vote of emergency session, the Council revokes your rogue status. All charges dropped. Earth is formally reinstated as a full power, with equal voice in the Galactic Council. Your actions at Hollow Sector are recognized as an act of sacrifice, not aggression. We welcome you back." Eric read the message, and didn't smile. Cass leaned in. "They need us now," Eric answered quietly, "only because they saw us burn." He stepped out onto the deck of Oblivion Prime, where what remained of his crew had gathered. Men and women, bloodied but breathing, some missing limbs, others just missing sleep. Behind them, the remaining Reaper ships floated in rows, scarred, but whole. He spoke simply. "We came to answer a call for help. We didn't ask who it was from. We didn't ask if they'd thank us. And we didn't run when it got dark." He looked at each face. "We may be from Earth. We may be from the worst place in the galaxy. But today, we were the light." A cheer rose from the decks, not loud, not proud, just tired, but real. Echo's voice rang in softly like a memory. "The war is over. But the question remains." Eric turned to the stars. "What question?" the one Joran asked. She said, "What kind of monsters do we want to be?" And the answer came, not in words, but in the slow return of Earth's fleet moving toward the colonies they had saved. Not to conquer, not to demand thanks, but to help rebuild. On Gara's 4, Reaper medics delivered new supplies. On Telio Station, Co's backup files repaired local networks. On Rivenhold, Cass helped lift a fallen counselor from the rubble and said nothing of the betrayal, and in the council hall itself. When Arik finally walked in scarred armor, broken blade on his back, the room fell silent. He stood before the leaders, who had once labeled him a criminal, and simply said, "Next. Time the galaxy cries for help." "We won't wait for your permission," he turned and walked away. The Deathworlders had turned not as conquerors, not as monsters, but as guardians. The fire they carried still burned, not to destroy, but to remind the stars. Earth was watching now, and Earth would never run again.